So today we're going to be taking some notes. So if you haven't gotten a piece of paper and a writing utensil out right now, probably should get that out. We're going to be talking about motivation. That's where we're going to start because it's motivation and emotion. So when we talk about motivations, we have to talk about things from the perspective of what is something that drives us to change. And I want you to think about this for just a second. I want you to think about how your life would be different if you inherited $10 million right now. Okay? How would your life change? If you were planning on going to college so that you could get a degree, so you could get a good job, would you still go? Think about that. How many of you would change your plans, your future plans, because of this difference? Anybody? Yeah. I know if I had been a senior in high school and somebody were to, hand me $10 million, my life would be very, very different right now. I would not have gone to school right away. I would have gone to school, but I wouldn't have gone right away. I probably would have taken a year or two off. Done something fun. Toured the world. Would I have still gone into teaching? I don't know. I don't know. But that's a lot of questions. Another question is money the only thing that motivates you? Or are there other things that motivate you? Because I guarantee there are. Very, very few people ever attain great wealth. Okay. Bill Gates, one of the world's richest men, is one obvious exception. He has attained great wealth. Gates, the founder of Microsoft, could never hope to spend all of his money. Yet, he continues to be motivated to work at things. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, one of the things that they work every year to do is they are trying to eliminate malaria. And so they go to places where malaria is widespread and they pass out mosquito netting and they pass out malaria medication, and they try their hardest to do all of those things. Okay. He's also putting microchips in our vaccines so that he can track your movement. I'm just kidding. He's not doing that. Number one, he doesn't work for Microsoft anymore. He's just kind of off on his own, spending his cash. And number two, you already carry a device that tracks your every movement and sound. Why would they put it into a vaccine? They don't need to. But other people, Elon Musk, he's incredibly wealthy and yet still goes to work every day, still works to make things better the next day. Jeff Bezos, he's stepping down as CEO of Amazon, but he's a multi-billionaire. Still goes to work, still works hard to improve, just his life, really. And get me my stuff here next day. No, I'm not talking to you. Go away. Stupid Bixby. All right. Okay. Gates once remarked in an interview that he sees life as a continuous process of challenge and achievement. Okay. Motives are needs, wants, interests, and desires that propel people in a certain direction. So we're going to be talking about what drives human behavior. Okay, we've talked about we've gone over the basics of the human brain. We've talked about memory, we've talked about learning, we've talked about intelligence, we've talked about all these things. So what drives us to do what we do? Why did they do that? Okay. We're going to look at a couple of different theories. Some of them have been thoroughly debunked. Others have been partially debunked. And some are still good. But that's what we're going to be talking about basically this week and a little bit of next. Okay. So first and foremost, we need to talk about the original motivation theory, which is instinct. Now, in 1890, psychologist William James, the first American psychologist, invented instinct theory. Basically, he came up with the idea that we do things because we have an instinct to do them. Now, he identified 37 different instincts, including cleanliness, curiosity, parental love, sociability, sympathy, and jealousy as examples. And he believed that those instincts provided the basis for human behavior. So if you were to ask somebody, why are you so curious about everything? I have an instinct for that. I instinctually am curious. Oh, okay. Psychologists in the early 1900s gradually expanded James's list until it contained more than 10,000 different instincts. Now, what is an instinct? An instinct is an inherited, innate, and not subject to reason force. So basically, an instinct is something that you are driven to do because you inherited it from your parents. It is inborn and innate, meaning you have no control over it. You just are going to do. And not subject to reason. You can't override it and say, this is a dumb idea. Okay. An example of an instinct in the animal world, salmon, they, in order to reproduce, have to spawn. And where they do that is they actually are born in like a stream bed of a river. And then they eventually go down the river to the ocean. They eat up everything in the ocean. And then at the end of their lives, when they begin the spawning process, they turn around and they swim up the river back to where they were born and lay their eggs in the same place, which I guess theoretically means that salmon are incredibly inbred. Because it's not like they're like bringing their friend with them that they met out in the ocean. They're bringing with them their, sisters and cousins and stuff, because they're all going to the same stream. And then they go up there and they lay their eggs and they die. Okay, that is an instinct. It is inherited from their parents. It is inborn and innate, and not subject to reason. Because wouldn't it be a lot easier if you just laid your eggs in the ocean? I mean, come on, right? It'd be a lot easier. Just live in the ocean instead of going back and forth. What the hell's the matter with you? Okay. Well, when instinct theory was at its height, there were 10,000 different instincts. That's a problem. Because what isn't an instinct at that point? Why do you drink coffee? Because I have the coffee drinking instinct. I inherited this from my parents. Why do you wear glasses? Oh, I wear glasses because I have the glasses wearing instinct. Basically, this is just labeling behavior. Okay? You're just labeling people's behavior and saying you do it because you have an instinct for it. Why do you clean up so much? I have the cleanliness instinct. No, that's not how this works. Okay. Psychologists today only consider something an instinct if it is innate, unlearned, and present at birth. Okay, like the sucking reflex we talked about when we talked about development. Okay, facial expressions also seem to be instinctual, and we'll talk more about those when we talk about emotion in a week or so. Okay. Some psychologists characterize hunger, thirst, and keeping warm as instincts. Evolutionary psychologists believe that such behaviors evolve because they promote the survival of the species. Some also believing that helping, aggression, and even mate selection are instinctual and genetic. They believe we have an innate desire to create offspring so that our genes will survive in our children. Freud, however, Freud believed that humans had both survival instincts, which he called eros, and death instincts, which he called thanatos. Okay. He believed that instincts resided in what he called the id, which is the first part of your personality to develop, according to Freud. And we'll get to that when we get to personality in our next unit. And the two most primary instincts of the id are sex and aggression. Why is everything related to sex and aggression? Because that's where our id comes from. That's where it starts naturally. Okay. The instinct theory of motivation is going to fall out of favor by the 1920s. Lists that identified thousands of instincts merely labeled behavior as opposed to explaining what caused it. In addition, instinct theory completely ignored the effects of learning and culture on human behavior. Okay, so that is a major part of instinct theory, is to basically ignore everything and just give it a label. Why do you do this? Well, it's an instinct. Oh, okay. And then you can't question it anymore. Why did this person murder 12 people? Oh, he had the murdering instinct. Oh, okay. That makes sense. That's not actually explaining anything. It's just giving it a label and then ignoring it. And we can't do that. Okay? Which brings us to another major theory of motivation, and that is an evolutionary theory. Now, evolutionary psychologists like David Buss believe that evolution determines human motives because natural selection favors behavior that maximizes reproduction. Okay? This goes back to a lot of different things, and evolutionary psychologists can explain a lot of things that many people just can't. Why are people afraid of snakes? Why? Well, an evolutionary psychologist would look at it and say, well, the ancestors to all of mankind who weren't afraid of snakes went close to a snake, got bit, got poisoned, and died. Okay? And therefore, those people who were afraid of snakes were able to live to see the next day and pass their genes on to the next generation. Why are people afraid of spiders? They're creepy and they're crawly. Who cares? Well, ancient ancestor version of you that wasn't afraid of spiders was bitten by them and died. So you're not actually descendant of that person. Okay, that was a cousin or an uncle that just didn't have any offspring. So evolutionarily speaking, we fear things to get us to tomorrow. Things that could kill us, we're afraid of because we were the people who survived. Okay, think about that for a second. Your ancestor was the one who survived. That's why you're so full of fearing and anxiety today. Okay? Does that mean that in a few thousand years, there's going to be people afraid of, strange viruses? Yeah, it probably will be. And you know what? Those people who are constantly washing their hands and making sure they're not having, contact with other people, they're going to survive and they're going to have children. And those children will inherit those same fears because they will learn them from their parents. And then those children will have children, and those children will have children, and those that don't wash their hands and aren't afraid of germs, those are going to be the ones that catch those nasty little viruses that kill people. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. But it gets even crazier because in evolutionary theory, you have to remember everything is about procreation, having babies. How do I ensure that I am going to have a child? Well, it comes down to what men and women are looking for in a potential mate. And according to evolutionary psychologists, they did a survey of over 10,000 men and women in 33 different countries on 6 different continents. Okay, why not 7? Because nobody lives in Antarctica. Okay, so they did a study, and they studied everywhere around the world. And what they found was pretty eye-opening. Okay, what they found was that when selecting a mate, males, typically are looking at females who are young and healthy. Okay. Now, if you think about all of the images of people in the media, you'll notice they all look kind of the same. They're all young and healthy. There's not a lot of old people hawking stuff. Okay. The reason for that is that we as a society cannot have children when you get pretty old. It's not healthy. There's a higher probability of the mother not surviving or the baby not surviving or there being some serious problems. So men are always looking for someone who is young and healthy. Women, on the other hand, in this survey, basically said they were looking for, and here's the bad news, fellas, they were looking for someone older and wealthy. So men are looking for the ideal candidate to have as many children as is humanly possible. And this isn't a conscious decision. It's not like people don't watch accountant videos looking for, baby bearing hips. There we go. Hell yeah. But subconsciously, that's what your brain is looking at. You're like, yeah. And if you don't know what an accountant video is, don't look it up. Anyway, I'm hip. I'm with it. Kind of. Anyway, so men are looking for having as many children as possible with their potential mate, so they need to be young and healthy. And in women, they are looking for someone who's going to be able to provide for those children. They need someone older and wealthy. Okay. Now, some critics of the survey did not see the conclusions as ironclad. They still felt that culture could explain a lot of the similarities in preferences with regard to mate selection. However, evolutionary theories of human motivation still attract a lot of attention in the psychological community. And that attention comes from the fact that there's just a lot of things we don't have an explanation for, but evolutionary psychologists do have an explanation for it that makes sense. Okay. So bad news, gentlemen, the few of you that are here. I don't know how to tell you this. You're going to enter into a dry spell. And the dry spell is going to last kind of a long time. Okay. When you go off to college, and you're a freshman or a sophomore in college, whether you're at AVC or wherever, you're going to find that people, college women of your age, are not going to give you the time of day because you're young and stupid and immature and you took the bus here. So thanks, but no thanks. But by the time you're a junior or a senior, you will be able to, okay? Because the freshman girls will give you the time of day. Yes. Yes. That's kind of their MO. Yeah. 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 Don't waste it on a tattoo. Waste it on getting some wheels. Okay. If you're the person who can always afford an Uber, that would be a plus if you can't afford a car. But if you can't afford an Uber because you got yourself a tattoo instead, okay. So we'll just sit here and stare at your tattoo. Interesting. Well, good for you, I guess. Good luck. Now, this is not, a hard and fast set of rules. There are always exceptions. However, just remember, according to a survey of 10,000 men and women surveyed of what they were looking for in a potential mate, women were looking for older and wealthier, not younger and tattooed. All right. So that leaves us to another theory of motivative psychology. And this was derived in the 1950s by a psychologist named Clark Hall. And he decided that instinct theory was just flat out incorrect and there needed to be something else. And so he devised what he called drive reduction theory. Now, as the chief proponent of drive reduction theory, Hull believed that humans have biological needs that demand satisfaction, like food, water, sleep. Okay? He defined a need as a state of deprivation, and he defined a drive as a state of bodily tension that arises from an unmet need. So let's say you're hungry, which probably is not too far off. Okay. You're hungry. Are you able to concentrate on things? Are you able to do things quickly and efficiently and effectively? Okay. And if not, why not? Nobody in here is hungry, I take it. Nobody in here is thirsty. Nobody in here is tired. You're so full of crap. Don't give me that. I know there is. Okay. So you're making the oatmeal right now. Okay. That works. So you were hungry. So what made you get up and make the oatmeal? You were hungry. Did it feel good? Does being hungry feel good? No, not typically. I know when I get hungry, I tend to, especially if I haven't eaten in a long time, I tend to get a little shaky. I get a little, I don't want to say moody, but I get a little angry. You get that hanger. Okay. It's not something that's pleasant. Otherwise, you would keep being hungry. All right, I'm hungry. This is great. No, you start getting kind of in a weird funk. And that's what Clark Hull is talking about. That's that state of bodily tension. You are in a state of need. You have an unmet need. And the action that you take to go and feed yourself is the action of the drive. That is the motivation. That is what's pushing you to that. Okay? So when you start feeling hungry and you start going, I got to eat something, your body is in a state of tension that it doesn't like. Yeah. Coffee is my co-pilot too. Of course, I'm drinking decaf, otherwise I get really weird. It's not pleasant. Anyway, so that unmet need, okay, that state of deprivation pushes you into an action. And that action is designed specifically to counteract the need. So you feel hungry. I feel kind of hungry. I can feel my blood sugar coming down. I'm getting a little, angry at everybody. I don't feel good. This isn't right. I don't like it. I'm going to go get something to eat. You go get something to eat, you feel better. That is drive reduction. You have that state of tension. You do something about it, and you return to a state which Hull called homeostasis, which is a balance in your body. Okay. Now, when things go out of balance, you've got to do something to bring it back into balance. When you are tired, you sleep. When you are thirsty, you get something to drink. When you're feeling frisky, you take care of that somehow. No judgments. Okay. So any disturbance in homeostasis, a drop in your blood sugar, okay, a change in your body temperature, gives rise to these drives. And these drives are the motivators that make us do something. If I was hot, oh, it's hot in here. I have a change in my body temperature. I don't like that feeling. I don't like feeling like I'm sweating down the back of my neck. What am I going to do? I'm going to change the temperature in the house. Maybe turn the AC on, open a window. I'll make it more pleasant for myself. I will return myself to homeostasis. Homeostasis is that balance area that we're always trying to get back to. And we are constantly having to make adjustments for. Okay, if we were in the classroom right now, I would probably have the temperature of the room either way too hot or way too cold, because then you all will start complaining. It's hot in here. Why is it so hot in here? Or why is it so cold in here? Can you turn the heat on? It's freezing. You now have a need. Your change in body temperature is below operating temperature. Okay, it's below optimal, so you have to bring it back to optimal and return to homeostasis. That is what allows you to be able to concentrate. Without being in homeostasis, you're not going to be able to concentrate, and everything that I say is going to be in one ear and out the other. Okay, so primary drives, according to Hull, are innate, inborn, and physiological in nature. They include hunger, thirst, and being thirsty. You get what I mean? Yeah, you get what I mean. Secondary drives are psychological rather than physiological and arise as a result of our experience. For example, we aren't born with an innate desire to become wealthy. Instead, we might acquire that desire because we learn that money allows us to more easily obtain things that satisfy our primary needs. Hull believed that secondary drives are actually behaviors that we associate with the reduction of primary drives. As a result, this association, these behaviors become drives themselves. So you aren't born, collecting up money. You have to learn what money is and what money can do. If I have money, I can buy food or something to drink or companionship in certain counties in Nevada, whatever it happens to be. Okay. You can reduce your drive or your need with those drives, those primary and secondary drives. Okay. So this was the predominant theory of motivation for about a decade. So from the 50s all the way until the 1960s, and the introduction of this very, very famous experiment. Now, drive reduction theory focuses on drives that satisfy our survival needs. Now, the psychologist named Harry Harlow is going to create an experiment that is going to challenge this notion. His experiment was simple, and you can see it here. What we have is a little baby rhesus monkey who was taken away from its mother at birth. That's not good, but don't worry, we're not going to hurt him. He was then given the choice between two different surrogate mothers. The mother on the left is made of chicken wire and has food. The mother on the right is made of terry cloth, like a towel or a bathrobe, okay? Terry cloth, okay? It's soft and it's warm. Now, according to drive reduction theory, the baby rhesus monkey is going to attach itself to the chicken wire mother because it's got food. And food is far more important to survival than being comfortable. But here's what we found. The monkey stuck with the cloth mother, even though there's no food. So what does that say about drive reduction theory? Well, drive reduction theory is all about surviving and making choices because it will help us to survive. In this case, however, this monkey is not trying to survive. Now, when it was hungry, the monkey would go over to the other mother, get some, milk, and then go right back to cloth mother. The monkey didn't want to be a part of that chicken wire. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, duh, that seems, logical. Why would anybody need to experiment like this? This is exactly what drive reduction theory is saying, though. If we are only there for survival, then we should be attached to the bottle mother, not the cloth mother. And Harlow and his wife, who is his associate in the experiment, decided that there was actually something more important to the monkey, and that was what he called contact comfort. The idea that we have to feel close to them. This is because it was like a newborn baby monkey. It's predominantly nature as opposed to something that they watched other monkeys doing. So this monkey was isolated from the other monkeys so that it wouldn't have that knowledge. Okay, they don't know anything. They were just given these two, monkey mothers. Okay, so this shows that this is part of the nature of it as opposed to the nurture of it. Okay. Harlow's research highlighted the importance of contact comfort, especially for infants and children. Okay, children don't attach to their parents simply because that's where the food comes from. They attach to their parents because they want to be close to them, because they want to feel affection from them. And we all do. But there's no survival nothing. There's nothing out there that is keeping us from surviving if we don't have human contact. So then why did this monkey choose the cloth mother? Well, that means that drive reduction theory is kind of a big ball of hooey. And we need to find another way to explain why people do what they're doing. So by about the 1970s, we start to look at a new theory, and we call this one is arousal theory. Now, when we talk about arousal, we're not talking about, being thirsty. What we're talking about is how aroused we are, just kind of how awake we are at that exact moment. Arousal theory focuses on things that can't be explained by drive reduction theory. Drive reduction theory doesn't explain why would somebody jump out of an airplane with a parachute strapped to their back. I can't explain that. If I'm in an airplane, the only reason I would ever get out of that airplane is either one, it's on the ground and stopped, or two, it's going down and I've got no choice. Okay. Those are the only two things that are going to get me out of an airplane. And yet, every single day, people strap parachutes to their backs and get into a perfectly good airplane and jump out of it. Why? Well, drive reduction theory can't explain that. It has no idea. There's no survival need for that. So why would people do that? Why do people get into an inflatable raft and go down a raging river? Oh, I'm certainly not going to do that. But somebody does. And these risk-taking behaviors can't be explained using drive reduction theory. So arousal theory helps to explain why they do that. Now, the argument in arousal theory is that each of us, has a certain level of arousal that we want to be at. And when we dip below that, we're bored. And we seek out things to make us unbored. Okay? For a lot of people, it can be as simple as using, playing a game on their phone or checking Instagram for the 1,000th time that day, whatever it happens to be. Okay? The fact is that they are taking care of their lack of arousal by boosting up that arousal that they are looking for. Okay. Now, there are some people who have a very low bar of arousal, and just being awake and staring at a wall, number one for them. They don't need any more than that. There are other people who need to be jumping out of an airplane or going down, a double black square, ski run, or they're whitewater rafting, or whatever it happens to be. They're doing all of these dangerous activities because that's what they like, and they're trying to boost their arousal to that point so they can get that feeling again, because that's where they like to be. Okay. So some psychologists believe that there's a link between arousal level and personality type. There are people that are more susceptible to boredom than others. They are the ones that tend to be the sensation seekers. I know from my own personal experience, I am not that person. A simple game on my phone that I've been playing for the last 2 years is good enough. I'll just play my game now. Just don't talk to me. I'm playing my game because you're boring. Okay. Most arousal theorists believe that each find our own optimal level of arousal. If your arousal level is too low, you try to increase it. Okay. When I was a kid, back before the age of, the internet and, being able to access the internet from every single part of planet Earth, do you have any idea what I did waiting in line with my mother? Nothing. Stared at the four walls that I was in, whether it be the grocery store or the bank or, God forbid, a government agency, because there was nothing to do. You could theoretically bring a book, but I wanted to reduce my boredom. You better find something to do because there's nothing to do. Okay. Now, what happens if I'm standing in a long line? Phone comes out and I start checking on things. He's like, okay, so I got a text message. I wonder what that is. Oh, my wife needs a vacation. Welcome to my world. Another person just posted a video. I'll have to take a look at that later. Ooh, somebody dropped off a package on our front doorstep. Nope, that's just my mother-in-law coming home. There's lots of things that I can do now, and that brings my level of arousal back to where I want it to be. Now, if you can be under aroused, can you be over aroused? And the answer to that question is definitely yes. Over arousal can actually hinder your performance in a specific task, especially if that task is very complicated. For example, some research has suggested that between 75 and 85% of soldiers in combat become so over aroused that they don't even fire their weapon. Over arousal can interfere with intellectual or athletic tasks. If you've ever been kind of stunned into not moving, that's over arousal. Your system was overwhelmed by what was going on around you, and you didn't know how to handle it. And so you just kind of froze. You're like, I don't know what to do, what's going on right now. Okay. If you've ever been, it can happen in a fight where suddenly somebody's, you're in a fight. It's like, what's going on? I don't know what's happening. Okay. All of these things happen because of different levels of arousal. Okay. So how do you keep yourself from getting into that kind of a situation? Training, practice. Okay. The reason that athletes practice, a move over and over again is so that it gets so ingrained into your muscle memory that even if you become so completely and totally over aroused because there's 55,000 screaming people surrounding you, your body will just do the actions and it won't have to think. That's why they practice, and that's why they practice so very much. It's pretty crazy when you think about it, that we have to practice something so many times, we just don't even think anymore, and that we're just not thinking when we're out there. Now, another thing that we can think about when we think about what motivates us is we can think about how they are organized into different categories and what becomes important versus what's not so important. And this was done by a humanist psychologist named Abraham Maslow. Now, humanism we're going to talk more about humanism in our next unit, but right now, just understand humanism is about bringing the idea of being a human back into psychology. Freudian psychoanalysis, we're controlled by our unconscious. You have no ability to make decisions. You're just ruled by your unconscious. That strips away humanity. Behaviorism, Skinnerian behaviorism, you're controlled by, positive and negative reinforcement, strips away the humanity. They didn't like that. The humanists wanted to bring this back together again. And again, we'll talk more about them later. But Maslow is the one who created a hierarchy of motivating needs. Okay, now, when we talk about Maslow's hierarchy, we're talking about what drives us to do something and what becomes more important than something else. So let's just do a wild suggestion. Let's say that your goal, okay, what you want most of all is to succeed in this class. Okay, that's all that we can get from you. To be all the you that you can be, that means succeeding in this class. What do we have to make sure of first? Well, according to Maslow, the first thing that we need to look at is this bottom part of the pyramid. First thing we have to satisfy are our physiological needs: food, warmth, water, a place to go to the bathroom. We have to have those needs met. If those needs aren't met, are we going to be able to succeed in this class? No. No, we are not going to be able to succeed in this class because you're going to be focused on, I'm really hungry. When is lunch? Oh, I haven't eaten in 3 days. I can't focus. You're not going to be able to reach that success that you are looking for if you can't reach your physiological needs. Those are the first things that you have to do. Next, after you've satisfied your physiological needs, you need to feel safe. You need to feel that the world is organized and predictable, secure and stable. If you don't feel like your world is going to exist beyond right now, are you going to be able to focus on what I'm saying so that you can succeed in this class? No. Just like the physiological needs, you have to feel safe in order to get to that success. But you don't care about safety if you're starving. Yeah, safety doesn't matter. I need food. Okay. As we move up the pyramid, okay, the next one is belongingness and love needs. The need to feel love and be loved, to belong and be accepted, the need to avoid loneliness and alienation. This is a need that we desperately need to feel, even if you're consciously going, nah, I don't need that. I don't need anybody. Spoiler alert, you do. We need to feel like we belong to something. If we don't feel like we belong, what's the point? Why am I even bothering with this? Why do I care about succeeding in this class if I don't belong to this class? If I don't feel needed or wanted or loved, why do I care? I don't. So that is another need that has to be met in order to be able to be successful in this class. Next one up is esteem needs. The need for self-esteem, to feel a sense of achievement, competence, and independence. A need for recognition and respect from others. Again, is that going to make it so that you don't live to see tomorrow? No. But it does make you feel good and make you feel like you're a success. And that's going to allow you to be able to reach that top pyramid. Okay. The last level are self-actualization needs. And that is the need to live up to one's fullest and unique potential. Now, I use this as an example because I try to make sure of these things every single year. In every class that I've ever taught, I try my hardest to make sure that these needs are being met so that you can be successful in this class and all the rest of them as well, whether you want to be or not. Okay. For example, many years ago, the state of California used to give an end of the year test. Okay. I don't remember if you remember the CST. I don't remember if you just never had to take it, but we got rid of it, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years ago. It's been a while. Anyway, before the CST, I needed to make sure that my students' needs were being met. So if they were hungry, I needed to make sure that they were fed. If they were thirsty, I needed to make sure they had something to drink. If they needed to go to the bathroom, I needed to know that they knew that they could go to the bathroom. Okay. Because every single year prior to the CST, I invited all of my US history students to my class. And I said, I want you to take a granola bar and a juice box, and I want you to eat these and go take your test. Take the test seriously. Now, why did I do that? Well, a couple of reasons. First, because I know that if the student is hungry or thinking about food, they're not going to do well on the test. If the student has to go to the bathroom and isn't being let out to go to the bathroom because they're in some dumbass teacher who, no, you can't go to the bathroom. Yes, you can't. Go to the friggin' bathroom. When you get back, you'll be more focused. Theoretically, at least. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I made sure of that. Physiological needs met. The next thing I told them, I told my US history classes, was no one is going to harm you. And I am going to make sure of that. If I have to go to that room and beat that person into submission, I will do so because I care about you performing your best on this test. For that 1 hour, you are safe. Even if you don't think that you are safe. Nothing is going to happen to you during that hour. Okay. Third thing, we get to the belongingness and love needs. Oops. Okay. Belongingness and love. Throughout the entire course of the school year, I tried my hardest to make my students believe and understand that we are working on this together. It's not them on their own. I am here to help them to achieve what they possibly can. Okay. And that's true in all of my classes, in my psychology classes, in my AP classes, any class. I hope that you believe and understand that I genuinely care about not only your success, but also you as an individual human being. Whether you believe me or not, I need you to understand. I genuinely care about you as a person. I might not remember your name. A lot of that this year is going to be blamed on the fact that I don't know what 95% of you even look like, let alone what your name is. So if next year we are back to normal and we are on campus and I walk right past you and I don't even look at you, understand, I don't know who you are because I've never seen your face. I have literally no clue. But if you're like, yeah, I was in your psychology class last year. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Good to finally put a, name to the face or face to the name, whatever. But this is something that I take very, 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 very seriously. Okay. I do genuinely care about you. And I know that some of you are like, yeah, whatever, he probably doesn't. No, I really do. Even if I've given you a bad grade. Number one, I'm just a mirror reflecting back what you give to me. And two, if you don't like it, come talk to me. Let's see if we can make it better. But you got to come talk to me. If I didn't care, then office hours would be me taking a big old fat nap and me never telling you about it. Next step, okay, esteem. How do I make you believe that everything that we've studied this year is going to be something that you are capable of not only understanding, but also being able to answer questions about with some sense of knowledge about that particular topic. We've reviewed, we've covered everything. I'm pretty sure that you know all this material. Let's go and prove what we know. That's all I've ever asked for. Prove what you know. Show me what you've learned. That's the end of it. And then that self-actualization need, I don't honestly care how you do on the test. I want you to do as well as you can do. If that's getting a score of basic, great. If it's a score of below basic, okay. I want you to be the best you that you can be. And I promise I won't take it personally when you get far below basic and I have to go, oh, come on, really? Maybe that's as good as you could do. That's okay. And this is how I approach every single day of teaching. I'm trying to make a better version of you float to the surface. This is also why I don't do competition with grades, because I don't want you to look at each other and say, well, I'm doing better than that person, so that means I'm better. That means nothing. That means nothing. If this is easy, challenge yourself. I'm going to get every single question correct on the test. Good for you. I hope you do. But if you're struggling and this doesn't make any sense and you finally get a C, don't let people dump on you because you finally got a C. You only got a C? I have a 95% in this class. Screw you, okay? I'm working my ass off and I got a C. That's the best version of you that you can be, and that's acceptable. That is acceptable because it's the best version of you. Do you see how humanism brings the humanity back into the field of psychology? You're no longer controlled by your unconscious or reinforcements and punishments. We're making the best version of you. And that's, again, that's how I approach every single day. It's just unfortunate that there's a lot of other people who don't approach it in that way, who need to make it a contest because you're number 4 in your class. Who the hell cares? Nobody cares. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But that's how I do it. Because if you're concerned about where your next meal comes from, theories of motivation don't mean a damn thing to you. And that's the truth. All right. That is where we are going to